Riley, it's always great to be with you.
So I really want to start with what's going on with tariffs because it looks like they are having a huge impact in China right now, but the CCP obviously does not want us to see that. What do you make of that situation?
Well, I think it's materialized exactly how President Trump thought that it would materialize. He said from the very beginning that we hold all the cards, and that's exactly what we're seeing play out. We've seen over 70 different countries from around the world, not just small countries, major countries, come to the administration seeking to make a deal and understanding and saying, yes, we have not treated you as you have treated us, and we're going to create a new paradigm here for trade. The only one that's really been vehemently opposed to this is China. And we're going to find out exactly what kind of position China is in, but we're seeing it right now with the unrest that they have in their streets. And I think that this means that China and the United States will ultimately come to a deal just as President Trump said that we would.
Yes, and the question then is the terms of that arrangement. But it's fascinating to me because when this first broke out with the Liberation Day tariffs back on April 2nd, people said that this administration would send the global community into the arms of countries like China, otherwise known as the world's factory, but the opposite has happened and in record time. And then you factor in the protests, the unpaid wages. It's really quite concerning, and it makes me think that China is a lot worse off than they've led the public to believe. I want to get your thoughts about the protests that are happening there as well.
I think, Riley, people have to have faith in our system and our way of life and our values. And you've got to understand that China, Russia, all these other countries that seem to be preoccupied with today, which are, look, they're still an important part of the global landscape. The reality is that these authoritarian regimes, they take their boot and they put it on the throats of their people. And they just squeeze out every little bit of individualization, inspiration, ability. They drown it out. And in America, we do the exact opposite. We lift people up. And so we just have to understand that no matter where we are in this process, we have to have belief in ourselves. We have to have belief in our system, that our system of governance will prevail because we're actually the good guys here in the world. We're not the bad guys. And the good guys win. This isn't just the Hollywood story talking about Hollywood tariffs. Like, really, the good guys do win because it's really good principles that force and create that really good policy that allows us to earn those great outcomes. And that's exactly what President Trump's doing right now.
Fascinating take on that. I want to pivot though because we have other issues with China right now, including their activities in the South China Sea and of course their big focus on shipbuilding and building drones as well. So fascinating reports coming out this week, including one from the Daily Caller about how the U.S. Pentagon and the DoD is focusing a lot on these really expensive weapon systems, but maybe not so much on drones, even though drones are becoming the future on the battlefield. I want to get your thoughts about that because I think that situation is a part of why this administration is really turning up the pressure on Beijing right now.
Well, this is exactly why I've spent so much time on the House Armed Services Committee diving in to our inability to produce small UAS systems, small drones that are cheap, affordable, modular. We have to have that capability in the United States of America. We've got to understand that on the battlefield in Ukraine right now, however you feel about the war, we have to learn the lessons from it. And the reality is that over 80% of casualties on that battlefield are not being caused by artillery. They're not being caused by small arms. They are being caused by small first-person view drones. This is an entirely different shift in the paradigm of conflict. And if we are not on the cutting edge of this shift, we are going to find ourselves in a compromised security position. So one of the things that I've been working very hard on House Armed Services Committee is making sure that we have organic capability to produce these small FPV drones in our country at scale. We currently do not have that capability right now, and we need it very badly.
Yes, certainly. And it's weird that it's taken so long to get to this place because we've seen this evolution on the battlefield for years and years. So I hope that we make a lot of headway with that. But I also want to pivot then as well to some other stuff because the tariffs they're garnering a lot of debate, right? And there seems to be a very mixed reaction, both at home and abroad, and I understand that. But you look at some other stuff that Trump's doing on the border and now with this bill in Congress, and there's a lot of support for it. In fact, a report you were just mentioning online shows that more than 8 in 10 voters support making Trump's tax cuts, the ones we passed in 2017, permanent. I really want to get your thoughts on that because I think that's really remarkable.
8 in 10 voters want to make these tax cuts permanent because if we let them lapse, it is a $4.5 trillion tax hike, the largest tax hike in the history of America, impacting every single level of American taxpayer, not just the rich, also all the way down to the poor. So we have to understand that we are in a very precarious position in our economy coming out of 4 years of President Biden, the rampant inflation, the increase in middle class debt, the decrease in middle class take home pay. President Trump is trying to reset the equilibrium of our economy, but we have to give it rocket fuel by allowing people to take the money that they earn and keep it and spend it, put it back into the economy, not to just give it back to government for it to be wasted.
One thing I find really ironic, too, on that point, sir, is the fact that Democrats, when they criticize Trump's plan for tariffs, they say, well, that's just a tax. And people don't like taxes. But they're also the party of tax hikes and reckless spending and inflation. So I find that very ironic, and I want to get your thoughts about that very weird juxtaposition for Democrats.
And look, the Democrats absolutely have no idea who they are right now or who they represent, what they stand for. All they're doing is sniping at Republicans and in particular at President Trump for anything that seems to stick on the mainstream media when it comes to talking points. And these talking points, you know what? They brief real well, they go across social media real well, but they are not reflective of the reality that we have all been living for the last 4 years under President Joe Biden. We have to understand, we have to reset the deck here when it comes to the way that our economy functions. We have to get back to parity and respect with the relationships that we have with our overseas trading partners. And all President Trump is asking from this entire initiative is to be treated with the same respect that the United States of America has shown these other countries and their economies. I don't think that that's too much to ask.
Completely agreed with you. And I think really all of this, for me, the way I sort of think about it is just getting America back into a good place, getting this country back on the right track. That's ultimately what President Trump was elected to do. And that brings us to the border really quick. So I want to talk about a bill you've introduced to combat the cartels who exploited that border crisis for years and years, and they still are, at least they're trying to. So this is the Financial Intelligence and National Security Act. Very interesting piece of legislation. Could you tell us more about what it is and what it would do?
Yeah, look, if we're really serious about curbing the lack of law and order that the situation down at our southern border and cross-border operations, particularly for cartels, narco-terrorists, human traffickers, what that presents, you not only have to physically secure our border, which President Trump has done. We are at 99% reduction of illegal immigration coming across the border under President Trump's term than we were during President Biden's. But we also have to go after the money. We have to choke the money off to the cartels, to the narco-terrorists, to the human traffickers. And the Financial Intelligence and National Security Act accomplishes this through regulating unregulated wire transfer services like Western Union and RIA. And it regulates them like banks. It takes the Bank Secrecy Act of 1970 and puts these wire transfer services underneath the purview of those requirements. And what that does is it forces accountability. It makes these companies actually communicate and coordinate with law enforcement when there's very clearly nefarious activity going on that isn't just good people sending money to good people. This is actually a criminal enterprise that is proliferating across our country, across our borders, and just overall creating this scenario of lawlessness that we have experienced over the last 4 years. That's got to stop.
Okay. Well, this is fascinating. I really like to see it. And thank you, by the way, for all the work you're doing to call attention to these issues and really combat them. It's really refreshing. And it goes to show this is such a transformative period for this country. So I'm very hopeful. That's all to say. I'm really optimistic about the future. And I'm very grateful for your time today, sir.
Oh, Riley, thanks for allowing us to come here and be with you. And we're just going to continue to do our part to make this country a better place each and every day.
We appreciate it. Thank you.